Oh my God, I had a great conversation with Peter. Dr. Peter Rios was here, ladies and gentlemen. I love everything he had to say. Everything he had to say. It was just so good. It was so good. It was really about transforming your life, about growing, about expanding, about maximizing who you are. And I love having conversations with people that don't have a victim mentality, but that keep progressing forward and then teaching you how to progress forward. He has a book on maximizing your life, like the 12 steps to maximize your life. I cannot wait for you to watch this video. So I'm going to shut up so you can watch it because you're going to freaking love it. You're going to love it. Okay, let's go. What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and it's just straight talking, no sugar added. I am so excited that you're here. You know I freaking love you guys so much, and you guys have been showing up. Over 100,000 downloads, all because of you. And it's all the time you guys pouring in and leaving comments and all that great stuff, and I cannot thank you enough. Now, you know I go around this amazing planet finding the best humans I can find to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. So today I am super honored to have Dr. Peter Rios with us. He's a renowned bilingual speaker, consultant, and leadership coach. He has over 20 years of experience in his field. Now, Dr. Rios has worked with top institutions like Harvard University, and he brings this unique perspective shaped by overcoming personal trauma. I love when people take things that are supposed to break you and actually break it, and so that can help others. I freaking love that. So alongside his spouse, Dr. Ruby Gonzalez Rios, he's dedicated to helping others maximize their potential and live really fulfilling lives. And you know we're all about that here on Straight Talk. So join us right now as we really dive into everything Dr. Peter Rios has for us. Thank you for being here, Peter. I really appreciate you. How are you?
Neena, I'm good. Thank you for having me. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Everything's great. I love life. I think as long as we look at life as experiences and not things happening at you, you know what I mean? I think it just helps you to live life at a better level, right? More gratitude in my life.
Yes.
So, Peter, I want to know you a little bit more, and I know my guests want to know you. So the big question always out the gate is, who are you? So I know I gave a little intro, but I really want to know who you are. So who are you, my friend?
Oh, great. Thank you again for having me. Well, first of all, I'm Puerto Rican from New York, and currently I live in St. Martin, in the friendly island of St. Martin in the Caribbean, and also in Orlando, Florida. Who am I? I'm a guy who went through, well, first of all, grew up in the projects and public housing, and then went through a lot of different ups and downs and rock bottoms, and failures and setbacks. And through much grace and mercy have been able to bounce back, and I'm maximizing my life. And that's what I'm trying to help others to do, to become their best version, to fulfill their fullest potential, and to make their mark here on earth. Right? We want to die empty. We don't want to die full. And what I mean by that is that you are so gifted, and those of you who are listening, you have something special within you. You are destined for greatness, and we're waiting for you to unleash that, so that we can make this world a better place. So come on, let's do it.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, hello. Drop the mic already. All right. He just got here. Y'all. Okay. That's it. First of all, I can really connect with a lot of things that you're saying, right? Also raised in the projects, rock bottom a lot. Mom never really had anything, always was on welfare, like that kind of stuff. It was tough and not tough, right? I think because when you grow up in it, you kind of just mold, you kind of just become what's around you in a way, right? There was always something different about me. You probably felt this way too. That's why you were able to get out. There's always something different in you that says, this ain't for me. This ain't where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. So there has to be something that happens. So I want to know for you, what was that moment? Like, what was the aha moment? Like, this ain't it, right? This ain't it for me. So what was that for you?
That's a great question. I think that, if I'm honest with you and the listeners, your listeners, I've had multiple aha moments. So, every level there's a different challenge and a
Hmm. Hmm.
different, you know, uh, certain level of dedication you need to advance. And so, early on in high school, I got caught. I was doing some illegal hustling on the streets, and I got caught. And somebody pulled me aside. Her name was Dr. Laila Denoya, from Venezuela, and she was the Upper Bound director. This program helps, first generation students, people of color, to get to college. Well, she told me, your situation, you don't have to be in this like for the rest of your life. And that
Mm.
was the first time I heard that. I'm like, people from where I'm from, you either hustle, people, they went to jail, they got, unfortunate things too early. Their life ended. And she
Yeah.
challenged me like, hey, there's more. And I write about that in my new book, Maximize, because one of the most powerful things for us is exposure. So she gave me exposure at that early age. She took us to university. I was upstate New York by that time. She took us to University of Toronto. I'm walking around this campus. I'm like, this is nice. Like, what is this? This
Wow. Yeah.
university. I
Yeah.
didn't know what a university was, and then, I go into the Marines sometime later. That feels like a life ago. And I'm living in Okinawa, Japan, and living in South Korea. So you're talking about this Puerto Rican guy from New York driving down the street on the left side, by the way. And there's street signs. Yo no sé lo que dice. I don't know what this says, and
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
this is crazy. And so, overcoming those fears, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you get to grow. And so then, at this point in my life, I'm looking for the next challenge. I'm looking, to grow more, to maximize. So I think that's what I would like to share with you and our listeners today. Like, don't limit yourself. You go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And sometimes you will need somebody else like us to help you, to challenge you, to encourage you. So
Yeah, yeah. It's really about shifting what you're doing, because I feel like everything you said is because you were exposed, right? And so
yeah,
you were able to look forward as opposed to looking where you were, right? So we can show up every day just being a new day of our old selves, or we can show up every day being a new version of the self that's going to be,
yeah,
right? And we constantly, I mean, I think it was the same for me. Like, I had the unfortunate and fortunate. My mom would, I felt very rejected by my mom. My father never even claimed me, so I don't even have his last name. But my mom, when she couldn't like deal with it or whatever, or when my stepfather was abusing me, she would send me to my grandmother's house, who lived on the other side of town. They weren't wealthy, but they just lived in a little bit of more of an upper middle class type of
right.
scenario. And that gave me a different perspective, right? My friends
Mhm.
were different. The situations were different. The food I was eating was different because my friends were Greek and Italian, because that's who lived there. So I tried different foods. That's where my love of food came from. That's why I became an executive chef, right?
Okay.
But growing up, though, like you, Peter, right? If she didn't stop you for that second and said, listen, there's something else out here. You don't have
Yeah.
to be part of this, right? And I wish more people would do that, but I also wish, Peter, that more people would receive that, because
Yeah.
a lot of times we want to stay stuck in that because we feel comfortable there. We
Yep.
have survived it. So we're there, right?
You're touching my buttons. And so like
Let's
I
go.
always tell people, like nothing grows in the comfort zone. So like if
Yeah.
you're comfortable, most likely you're not growing. And so
Yes.
it's only when we are, at least tolerate or are okay with being uncomfortable. And
Hmm.
come on, being uncomfortable isn't something bad. It just means you're simply uncomfortable. And so just like like my grandmother raised me, and I had many setbacks, like I failed community college 3 times. Like, in my younger life, I tried out for a basketball team 6 years in a row and got cut. So I know what it feels like, what you're
Yeah.
saying, to
Yeah.
feel like rejected or not, that you feel like you don't belong, especially people of color. Sometimes you navigate with that whole, the imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
when you have some level of success. And so all of those things, though, as you said, they build a certain level of resilience, right? You have a certain level of grit. And sometimes we take that for granted. Like
Hmm.
some other people who grew up maybe better, had, a better household, or probably will never outwork me, probably would never outdo me because I am hungry, like,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and so I think that for the listeners today, maybe you've been going through something so difficult, or you had childhood traumas, or you're dealing with something really, difficult right now. Well, you can overcome it, you can get through it, and also you can modify or pivot from that to become even better. And so, yeah, that's amazing. Human beings are amazing.
They really are. And so you touched a couple of things, and I want to dig into that with you. So people of color, right? Being
Mhm.
Latina myself, I'm Puerto Rican, in Stanford, which is right on the border of New York, that kind of thing. But we have to also, at least for me, I stop the narratives. I stop the
Yeah,
narrative in my head that I'm Latina, that they're doing that to me because I'm Hispanic. I
yeah,
stopped all that. So what I did was I shifted everything. Even when I was younger, I'm like, oh, I don't see color. I know that there's color. I love color, but I don't care about your color. Right. I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed by money. I've never been that way. I'm not impressed by stardom. Oh, there's a superstar. I'm not impressed. I'm glad that God made me that way, because then I'm not always trying to be somebody else. I'm just trying to
yeah.
be, to your point, we are super magnificent inside. We really, really are. Right. And I feel the same way you do. I get up every day and I hustle. And so when you put your mind to where you want to be, because
Mhm.
the good thing about being in the States as well is that you can be where you want to be. There's a lot of
You,
opportunity.
you don't have to just dream about it. You can actually do it.
Yes, you can actually be about it, and
You
that's the
can
thing,
actually
right?
do it.
Yeah, you know what? Too is important. The network, the people you have around
Sure,
you,
for sure.
right? Like,
Yes.
me and you had a great conversation the first time. We're having a phenomenal conversation now. I hope
Right.
we're in touch, because when you have networks like that, you can expand. Yo, hey, Dr. Rios, I need a talk for this thing. Can you do
Sure.
it? Or hey, Nina, I need. That's what. And I always tell people, level up on your friends.
Yeah.
Level. If people are doing the same thing you're doing and you're not growing, that means that there might be good people, but you got to
Hmm.
keep it moving, right?
I
And I
put. I
also
mean,
go ahead.
no. I was gonna say, add to that. I'm intentional about putting
Hmm.
myself in spaces where I am not the smartest, the wisest,
I was
the
just gonna say
the,
that.
the
Yep.
richest.
Yep.
Like I'm always looking for another space so that I can stretch, so that I can grow.
Right.
That takes intentionality. Growth
Yes.
takes intentionality. Maximizing your
Yes.
life takes intentionality. And so, like you're saying, we have to get out of our bubble, that comfort
Hmm.
zone, that
Hmm.
lo que tú conoces, I know this, I know this block, I know this city. No, get out of that. It's
Right.
cool, you can honor that, but also dare to dream more, to be more. And that's where exposure comes in. That's where, like what you're saying, mentors, or, getting a building a new network, and also not just looking to seek, like, to get things from people. So, for me, what I did early on, which I think will help and bless our listeners today, is that I believe in intentional service, right? And so I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be successful in traveling and speaking and this and that. And so I joined someone who was already doing it. And I
Right.
added value to their mission and vision. And I was learning on the job. I wasn't getting paid. I was just carrying the brothers' bags,
Yep.
getting water in between
Yep.
sessions, whatever. But I was watching, I was listening. Well, guess what? A year and a half, 2 years after, he was like, "Hey, tomorrow you're going to speak in this youth camp." It was a huge youth camp. It was like 500 young people. And I'm like, "I'm going to speak." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to speak. You got it." And I'm like, "Wow." And I had that speaking opportunity. And so who can you align with? Who, like Nina's saying, who align with and grow with and add value to them. Guess what? It's reciprocal. Sooner or later, you'll be doing it for somebody else.
Yep. Yep. And it's that servant leader mentality, right? It's to serve so that you can lead. And I think that, I did the same thing. Being someone who didn't have much income, was homeless when I went to college, like all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
I poured myself into programs, right? So I said, okay, well, I'm actually living out of my car sometimes, living in my friend's basement sometimes. And I was an adult. I mean, I had a family, my husband and I, we just lost everything in 2008 when the recession hit.
Okay. Yep.
And so what you do is you start pouring. So what I did is I went into the program, I learned, and then I poured. I learned and I poured. Same thing you're talking about. What
Incredible.
ended up happening once I lifted myself off the ground and became six figures and did what I had to do and created my businesses. That's when they called me back and said, Nina, can you come and talk, because you are one of our success stories. Well, I had a room of 800 people. It was amazing,
Yeah.
right? And I
Right.
mean, it was standing ovation. That's awesome because
Right.
I always wanted to speak. So it was an amazing opportunity. To your point, start like looking outside of your little narrow box. And I
Mhm.
always tell people, Peter, like act like you just arrived to the world today. God created you today, like He did Adam and Eve. You just arrived to the world today. You have no hangups. You have no bad ideas. You have
Right.
no hurt feelings. You have none of that stuff. And then you look where you want to go. Now create the memories from today to where you want to go. And then you'll make it there instead of just, oh, but my mother, but my father, but my house, but my, you know what I'm saying? So
Right. Right.
talk to me about what you do because I love what you're doing. I know you have the book, all this great stuff. You're doing speaking, all of that great stuff. So tell me about more intentionally what is it that you're doing to impact the world today?
Yeah, you said it. I believe in diversifying my revenue portfolio, but also, I'm not just one thing and I don't have just one gift.
Amen. Yep. Yep.
Before that was like a problem for me. And at times I still feel like tension or conflict within myself, but I'm growing into it that, yeah, I can do more than one thing. Society
Hmm.
sometimes wants to put you in a box
Hmm.
or categorize you, like you said, like if you're a person of this or that or from this culture. And while I honor the differences, also, owning up to who I am. So I'm growing in that identity of like, I'm a good speaker. I'm writing, it's my second book, traveling, consulting, coaching, building a course right now online, which will be available next month. I've been a professor, administrator in higher ed. I've served in different industries. And so some people are like, oh, that's crazy. You're everywhere. And I'm like, oh, I don't feel like it. I just feel like I have a gift, which is communication, and it is being
Right.
served in different ways in different areas,
Hmm.
And so I look back now, 10 years ago, and I'm glad I didn't listen to those fools that were like, oh, that's crazy, or, you should be
Yeah.
staying here, stay in your lane. I'm glad I broke out of that lane. I'm glad I
Yeah.
broke out of the confinement of other
Yeah.
people's limitations or other people's, ways of thinking, of being. And it's like, there's no limits, there's no boundaries. The only limits are the ones I set for myself. And so I'm going to shoot, like I think Les Brown said it, you're going to shoot for the stars or shoot for the moon or something and at least
Yeah.
land on
And it
a star,
hits
right?
some. Yeah.
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 Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you? The interesting thing is that in the work that I'm doing, I try to help people like plan out, where you want to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? It's best to think 5 or more years. And so
Yeah.
you're going to get there regardless, unless, God, forbid something were to happen to you, but you're going to get like 2025 is coming.
Yep.
2030 is coming. 2035 will be here. And you're going to get there. The main issue or question that we need to ask ourselves is, am I going to be the best Peter Rios in 2035? Am I going
Right.
to be where I want to be, or at least close to it? And so when you have a plan, when you have a strategic plan, when you have a growth plan, right, a personal leadership development plan, even if you don't get to where your target, right, you're going to be in a much better place than if you didn't have any plan. And sometimes, and this is my point, sometimes people are living like zombies. Let's face it. Like I
Yeah.
see people who are living, they have no purpose. They're living like if they have no mission. And like I said earlier, we want to die empty. We want to make sure that near the end of our life, we have given everything. We've poured it out. We have achieved, right, and helped others along the way. So
That's awesome. So, okay. So let me touch on that a little bit. So those who are listening, because the good thing about my audience is I have a lot of like solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, coaches. Those are the main people that listen to my show. So what is it then, Peter, that they have to look for? What's the first thing they have to be aware of or look for in order to be that proud person 5 years from now? Like, what's that strategic plan? Or not the whole plan, because you can't do that, but where does it start? Where does it start?
yeah, I would say, do a self-analysis. Where are you? And, is this where you're at? Is that actually where you want to be? And if the
Mm,
answer is no, then you just need to do the simple task of planning out where would you like to be, and be intentional. If
yeah,
you want to make a certain amount of, dollars of money, then put that in I have a journal. I journal mostly every day, daily reflection, prayer. I do those things, self-reflection. It helps me to be centered and to have more control of my life.
right.
So I am intentional about, where I'm going. So I have goals, right? If you don't have any goals, then you're just living for anything or for whatever happens, or let's see what happens. And I think that at this point, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a leader, if you're somebody who has any level of responsibility, we owe it to ourselves and to this generation to have a plan, to have goals, to have benchmarks, to measure that, and to see what resources you need so that you can get there. You may not have it all, and that's okay. That's what that planning is all about, that
Mm-hmm.
ideation phase, right? And then going all in and going for it, going all in for it, and see what happens. I'm telling you, the results will be amazing. You will blow
Right.
your mind, so
Right. And you know what you're saying is what a lot of very successful entrepreneurs have said on my show. And so what I want people to take away from that, Peter, is that stop winging it. Be intentional,
yeah,
because you said that you're intentional. You get up every morning, you write your intentions, you write what your reflections, what you want to do, blah, blah, blah. That's intentional, right? That's living life with intention. That's actually saying, I'm going to get up and this is the intention, as opposed to get up and, oh, I can't, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe I'll do it. And now here I am on Instagram all day, that kind of stuff. And the truth is I've fallen for that past too, where I would get up and the first person that meets you in the morning is the bad you, is that subconscious you that doesn't want you to do crap, doesn't want you to work out, doesn't want to go to work, doesn't
yeah,
want to, what I'm saying? That's the first person to meet you. Now it's up to you whether you greet the person and let that person be your day, or you say, okay, nope, we're doing things differently. I'm going to be very intentional today. I have a lot of things I need to get done.
yeah,
Right. And yeah,
yes. No,
go ahead.
and I was going to say, just to give like an example from my own life, a couple of years ago, actually August of 2021, I got this download, right? And I say it was a download from God for this book, Maximize 12 Keys to Unlocking Your Greatest Potential. And I got it and I put it in my phone, like points. The main thing was, wow, how is somebody who grew up in poverty, who failed community college, now hold 2 doctoral degrees and is going to go consult at Harvard University? And I said, how did this happen? And I started reflecting and writing. That's why reflection and writing is so important.
Yeah.
I wrote those notes. I stored it away for about a year. And in August 2022, I heard like a small voice say, hey, what's up with that note in your phone? And I'm like, the note. I'm like, oh, so I didn't know that was going to be a YouTube video or what, right? I was like, this is going to be a book. So I had to be intentional about writing almost every day. Sometimes, if I got real sick or something, I couldn't. But on the airplane, I was traveling so much from St. Martin to Berkeley, California, because I was a professor out there. So 1 week a month, I'm traveling in the airport, in the hotel, at doctors' meetings, whatever, just writing. Then I learned, I had an app where I could speak and it would write it for me. And then, we got that edited, obviously. But
I love it.
the thing is, like, I was like, in a year, this book needs to be written. Now, obviously, I lived it out 45 years, but it took a year to write it. And so I believe everyone listening has at least one book in them. And so
Yeah.
what's that vision? What's that gift? What is it that you serve people with that you can either write a book or start a new product or a business? You have to be intentional about it and go at it every day. And so I carved out time every day. I started going to bed early, waking up early. That works for me. It may not work for other people, but you have to find your niche for yourself. You have to find your sweet spot and then just go all in.
Yeah, yeah, and you could only find it if you're intentional, because otherwise you just live every day like every day. You know what I'm saying? And then you this is the pitfall we fall into, right? It's almost like this evil circle, because you get into that pitfall and then you start to woe is me. Then you just sit with the victim and woe is me all the time. And then you think the world is against you when it's actually not. The world is at your fingertips. Go for it, right? And now, Peter, I mean, I don't know how old you are. I'm 51, right? So I'm at that generation where we didn't have computers when we were younger. We got them later, right? Because Generation X is that one that went through both. And the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is we are way more blessed. We have so much technology and so much. I mean, it's good and bad. Too much information sometimes. But I feel like if you really want to do something, though, there's really not too much of an excuse, except for yourself not doing it,
Right.
because what can't you learn now, Peter? I mean, you're going to come out with a course. People can take it. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't they take it, right? And that's
Right.
like, we have to get out of this thing like, yeah, I'll just do it on my own, or I'll just find it online, or I'll just. And the problem with that is when somebody's saying, okay, so Peter's on here. I want you guys to listen. So Peter's on here. He's telling you guys to maximize your life. He has a book, The 12 Keys to do that. He has actually proven it by his lifestyle. And then
Right.
you go and say, "Oh, I can learn by a YouTube video." So then you go and you start to try to piece all of this together by yourself. Now, 3 years, 4 years later, you're still in the same position
When
you're in.
the blueprint already exists, you know,
Right,
and
right,
it's been proven. And
right.
sometimes I think, like we said earlier, about going from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, or from going from a consumer mindset to a producer mindset.
Right,
Like,
right.
I grew up in a consumer mindset. Like, you watch marketing on TV, you want to buy things you can't
That's
afford,
right.
you want to show off to people who don't care about you, you want to pretend that you. And it's like, you don't need to pretend. Like you said earlier, we live in a country, in the US, where you can actually have it. You can actually do it. I love that phrase, that song, I think it was Eminem, but, will the real Peter Rios please stand up? So it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
until I took full responsibility of my life and put the excuses aside, I used to blame everyone for having, the minimal amount of success, and just took full ownership of, like, if my life is going to be anything, I need to make it something. And that starts today. And
That's right.
so, and even if you are a success, there's always another level. And so, like you said earlier, what network are you in? What circles are you running in? If you're making six figures, you need to connect with somebody who's a millionaire, etc. If you want to be healthier, run with people who, literally run, but
Yeah,
be hang out with people who are fitness, gurus. If whatever area, professional, personal, spiritual, right? And,
yeah.
and you need to sometimes see a model, and that's what we're talking about today. That I'm not perfect. God knows that. I know you're not saying you are, but
Mhm,
hey, we have a certain level of success, and we want to help you to get to your next level. So
mhm.
take it. It's there.
And listen, for those of you who are listening who feeling maybe discouraged or don't think you have enough, or you are thinking you're not smart enough, whatever that is, I'm telling you that I'm telling you, you only need to be about one chapter ahead of someone else,
That's
right?
right.
It's like that story with that young guy who went to a college, acted like he was a professor, and was teaching the class, and the class was passing all of the grades. And then so they caught him after a few months, and they're like, we need to ask you, first of all, how you got away with it. And secondly, how did your class pass all of the exams when you yourself don't know the material? He said, "Oh, I was always one chapter ahead. I was always one chapter ahead." And that blew me away. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I don't even know if that was like a true story or movie or something, but I remember that impacting me because I said, "You know what? Why are we trying to be the freaking experts in everything?
Yeah,
We don't have to be. We could be one chapter ahead to help someone else."
I
You
love
have
that.
been through some stuff, Peter, right? So people who haven't been through that yet, or are going through it and haven't quite pushed through, are people we can impact. And
Right.
we keep thinking that we got to be perfect. Nobody got to be freaking perfect, right?
No.
So I want you to wrap us up with what you are offering the world. So I want to know about your book. So tell me about that, where we can find it, where people can follow you, because I love the way you speak and I love the way you present yourself. And I think that it's important for people to follow you and honor that, and work with you and all that kind of stuff. So give us that information.
Thank you. Thank you for your kindness. You can follow me on mostly all social media outlets, at Dr. for Dr. Peter Rios. So that's at Dr. Peter Rios. My website at www.peterriosconsulting.com. And there's free resources there. There's ebooks. There's all kind of things that are there. Also, our YouTube channel is at Dr. Peter Rios. So you'll get free content as well there, educational, but also business. And then our book, my new book, Maximize, it's available in English and in Spanish. So no hay
Awesome.
excusa.
I love
No hay
that.
excuse, maximiza. So you can get it on Amazon or any other, major bookstore. But on Amazon, there's the Kindle version, etc. And hey, if you're doing okay, you feel like I'm good, I don't really need it. I'm sure you have a family member or a
Yeah.
colleague or someone who you want to bless or give a gift to, that's going to help them, kick charge their fullest potential this coming year. So it's there, it's available. And hey, thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here with you, to be with your listeners today, and hope to, like you said, continue this collaboration. We have a lot of
Yeah.
work to do.
Yeah, we sure do. But you know what? I really, really, I thank you for your time. I'm glad that we met. I'm glad we spoke. I'm just really grateful that you came on here to drop all the gems that you dropped. So thank you for being here and like enriching my community because that's what I love to do. So I'm super grateful, man. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Un abrazo.
Yeah, igual. Guys, thank you so much. I just love Peter. So make sure you guys follow him. I'm going to make sure all of his information is linked below. I want to make sure that you pick up the book. Listen, like he said, if you think you're all that in a bag of chips and you don't need it, all good, but pick it up for someone who doesn't because sometimes it's easier to hand someone a book and have them do it than actually you pour into them if they don't want to receive it. So just buy some people some books, buy a few of them. I always do that. When I find something that is really impactful, I just hand people, oh, you should read this because it's a little bit less intrusive if that's how you're feeling, like you can't do it, right? Do that for someone else then. Don't think about just you. I love you guys so much. I think you're going to enjoy passing around this episode. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff because it is super important that we reach as many as possible. Until next time.